What's up everybody and welcome back to another video. So, GeoGuessr is a very tough game, but there are 25 simple, quick tips that can help improve your gameplay significantly. The first area we're going to talk about is polls. So, the first location here, I'm going to give you a second to just look at the round, maybe try to guess what this is going to be. The major tip or giveaway here is this black sticker on the concrete pole. So it has a few letters and numbers on it, and it's a rectangular sticker on a concrete round pole that immediately tells you you're going to be in Malaysia, specifically the peninsula of Malaysia. Alright, second round here, there are a few tips that could tell us the country, but the main thing I notice here are these poles with the yellow and black striped diagonal markings, and notice that the stripes go all the way down to the ground. So we can see all around that there are yellow and black striped poles that go down to the ground. Just try to remember that this means we're going to be in Taiwan. Okay. Now the third round, again, poles here. For now, I want you to focus on this blue kind of squarish sticker that's on the wooden pole. So the blue sticker is only going to be found on France. It's a very small sticker, so you can miss it if you're not paying attention, but this means that we're going to be in France. Okay, now we're going to have our first North America location, and we have the three horizontal yellow stripes on the pole here. Something else notable about the round is that all of the poles are wooden, which is common in the US, but if we see three horizontal yellow stripes, we're only going to be in California. Alright, and now my final tip for poles of this video. We see a concrete pole again, but unlike the others, this one is not round. You can tell that it kind of has some edges to it, and it could be described as an octagonal pole. So when you have the octagonal concrete pole, you're going to be in Mexico. Now we're going to dive into signposts and how we can use that to determine the country as well. Okay, so here on the stop signs and signs, we have kind of a white wooden rectangular post on all the signs. So with this, we know immediately that we're going to be in Uruguay. Another tip for Uruguay is kind of like these groups of trees that are kind of like interdispersed throughout the farmland. Yeah, okay. So here's another tip for signposts. In Colombia, there's kind of this cross you can see in the back of the sign. So these are pretty much present on all of the signs. Here we can see in the distance another cross on the back of the sign. This is referred to as the Colombian cross, and we immediately know that we're going to be in Colombia. The yellow plate here is also a giveaway for Colombia. Now we have a blue sign with two white posts that are black painted at the bottom. So that is only going to be found in Russia. Blue signs are also used in Russia. Okay, now that we talked about signposts, we're going to talk about signs themselves. This round, we're back to North America, and we have what looks like a stop sign, but instead of stop, it says arrêt on it. So arrêt is a French word that I believe means stop, and you might think that this is found in France, but this is only found in Quebec, Canada. So this is not found in any other place, only Quebec. Alright, and now another stop sign. This stop sign says the word dur, which is only found in Turkey. But this one that says dur is only found in Turkey. Okay, now this one might be a bit harder to remember. So we see these kind of like zebras on the crossing signs all around Europe. But for this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stripes. So there are 8 black stripes, while with other European crossing signs, you might only see 3 or 5 or something like that. So if you have what looks like just a ton of black stripes on the crossing sign, we know we're going to be in Spain. Alright, now we have a speed limit sign. In the US, this would just say speed limit, but here we see it says maximum at the top, and that means that we're going to be in Canada. Also, we would never have 100-mile-per-hour speed limits in the US because it's in kilometers per hour in Canada. If we see maximum on these signs, we're going to be in Canada. All right, and now we have a speed limit sign in the US. But this one is also unique because it only says speed instead of speed limit, and those are only found in Oregon. So if it only says one word speed, it is going to be in Oregon. Alright, now our next section is going to be on license plates. Alright, so we see that we kind of have a short license plate, and in the middle we see a big black dot. So the license plate is mostly white except for this big dot in the middle. It's only going to be in Argentina. So these license plates are pretty easy to recognize. Just remember the black dot equals Argentina. Okay, now license plate in Europe. So these plates are also very recognizable, and like pretty much all other European plates, it has a blue strip on one side. But what is unique to Portugal is that they have a yellow stripe on the other side as well. So if you see blue and yellow on the license plate on each side, then you know you're going to be in Portugal. Yeah, we can see a ton of these everywhere. Blue and yellow equals Portugal. Now another license plate in Europe. Here again we can see the blue strip on one side, except we see blue strips on both sides. Also notice that the front plate is a lot shorter. In other countries, like the back plate here, it's pretty long, but this one on the front is very short. So short plates, two blue strips, means we're going to be in Italy. Alright, another tip for Europe. Here again, we can see the blue strips on all the plates, except the license plate seems to be tinted red or orange. In the white part, it doesn't really seem white, but more kind of red, and that's because in Belgium, the license plates have red lettering. So if it seems like a normal European plate, but if you have red tint in the middle, then we know we're going to be in Belgium. Alright, so this tip is going to take us to Asia, and here we can see red, very red license plates everywhere. They're very distinguishable. We might see a couple other ones, like this yellow one over here, but the vast majority of the license plates are definitely red here, and that means we're going to be in Bhutan. So if it appears like Asia and we have all red license plates, then we're going to be in Bhutan. Alright, and one final tip for license plates. Well, this one actually isn't really about license plates. It's kind of just more general tip. But we see that we have two bike lanes here, one on each side of the road. And the Netherlands has a very robust bike infrastructure. So if you notice a lot of bike lanes, then you're probably going to be in the Netherlands. If we zoom into this car here, we can also notice that it has a yellow plate, and the Netherlands also has completely yellow plates on both sides. The second to last section is on bollards, but here in Iceland, we have this yellow bollard. Also, by the way, if you don't know what a bollard is, it's kind of like the stick on the side of the road that you'll see in almost every country on GeoGuessr. But here, they're kind of a neon yellow color, and this bollard is only going to be found in Iceland. So now, we're still in Europe. This bollard is very round, a lot thicker than most bollards. Um, yeah, it's a pretty large bollard, and it's white with kind of a red horizontal stripe in the middle, and it kind of has this pointy top. So these you'll see everywhere in France. So if you see this kind of thick bollard with the red stripe in the middle, we're going to be in France. And now to our final section. This is a little bit more complicated, in which is why I saved it for last. I would like to say that some players choose to play without this in mind, and this, of course, is meta. So what is meta? Meta is basically something that wouldn't exist in the real world, but would only exist in the game itself. Basically, when the Google car is driving around the world, different cars are used in different areas, so you can kind of use what car we're driving on to figure out where we are. Right, and this car here is very distinguishable. It's very important and famous in GeoGuessr. So we have these two metal bars on the roof of the truck. So they're two parallel bars, but it also one of the bars has this black tape on the end of it, and notice that it's only on this side. So if you see the black tape on one of the bars, then we know that we're going to be in Ghana. So while meta may kind of feel like a cheap way to play the game, it is definitely very useful, and the vast majority of top players utilize meta. Yeah. Okay, here's another tip for car meta. We're staying in Africa here. This is Kenya. This is another very famous car in GeoGuessr. So we kind of are on the back of a pickup truck, and we have this big black snorkel in the front right of the car. So I think it has to do with like in Kenya, there's some kind of government regulations related to flooding or something like that, which is why there's a huge snorkel in the front of the car. So if you see the big snorkel, then you're gonna be in Kenya. At first, this might look like a very difficult rural round with not many tips, but there's one giveaway hint right here that immediately tells us the country. So we see that the back of the Google car here kind of has this tricolor pattern. It's blue, white, and red. So if you see blue, white, and red on the back of the Google car, then you know that you're going to be in Sri Lanka. So for some reason, Sri Lanka, the car has these three colors that are kind of blurred together. And you can kind of remember this as looking like the French flag, blue, white, and red. And French flag equals Sri Lanka. So that is a very useful meta. Alright, and now our final tip is a pretty funny one. Um, and we're in Mongolia here. You can also see the tip of a little snorkel there too. But this is definitely not Kenya because we have this huge blanket tied over the top of the car. See, we also have these two metal bars like the ones we saw in Ghana, but this time we have this huge kind of dark blanket on top of the car, and that tells us we're going to be in Mongolia. So I think a good way to remember this is that Mongolia is super cold in most of the places, so you have to bring a blanket to stay warm. So yeah, I think that's a pretty cool one. And that brings us to the end of our video. 25 quick, easy tips on how to identify the country on GeoGuessr for beginners. So if you could just try to remember a few of them, that might help your gameplay, and then memorize them and get it solidified in your brain. And then you can try to remember a few more because it might seem, quite overwhelming trying to fit all of that information in your brain. All right, see you in the next video. Thank you for tuning in.